Arman was a quiet man in public, but everyone in the city knew about his success. His companies covered many fields like technology, farming equipment, and transport. He had teams working in many towns. Some people called him lucky, some called him smart, but Arman always said his greatest achievement was his daughter. Her name was Mira, an 8-year-old girl who brought life into his home with her bright smile and warm heart. Arman had a rule. No matter how busy he became, he spent every morning with Mira before school. He made her simple breakfast, usually toast or eggs or fruit. He packed her lunchbox by himself. He believed that small things built a strong bond. Even though he could afford any luxury, he avoided showing it in front of her school. He never wanted Myra to feel different from other children. He did not want her to grow up thinking life was about money. He wanted her to feel normal, safe, and loved. That morning, as they drove to school, Arman noticed something unusual. Myra sat quietly in the seat next to him. Normally she talked about her drawings or about her friends or about the funny things that happened in class. Today she held her lunchbox tightly and stared out the window. She did not hum or laugh like she usually did. Arman slowed the car a little and looked at her more carefully. She was not angry. She was not sick. She looked worried. Her small hands held the lunchbox as if she was afraid someone might take it away. He finally spoke in a soft tone. "Mira, is everything all right?" She nodded once, but she did not make eye contact. Her voice was small when she answered, "Yes, Papa, I am fine." Arman did not want to force her to talk, but the worry in his heart grew stronger. Myra was usually honest with her feelings. Something was different today. Something was wrong, and she did not want to talk about it. He decided not to push her further at that moment. Children sometimes needed space. He smiled gently and continued driving. When they reached the school entrance, Myra opened the door slowly. Before she stepped out, she looked at him with sad eyes for just a second. It was like she wanted to say something but changed her mind. "Have a good day," he said with a warm voice. "I will pick you up later." She gave a weak smile and walked inside. Arman sat quietly for a moment. He could feel that something was troubling her. He did not want to wait until the afternoon to find out. He started the car and drove a short distance away, parking in a nearby lane. He stayed there for a few minutes, deep in thought. He had never seen Mira hold her lunchbox like that. He began to think about what could have happened. Had someone teased her? Had she been scolded? Was she being left out? His heart tightened at the thought. After a few minutes he made a decision. He would not wait until school ended. He would visit during lunch to see for himself. Arman disliked stepping into Myra's school life without reason. But as a father, his instincts told him to act. He drove away for a short time to finish a few quick tasks for his business. Around noon, he returned to the school gate. The guard recognized him and looked surprised. Parents did not usually come during lunch hours without special meetings. "Good afternoon," Arman said politely. "I am here to visit my daughter for lunch. I have signed in at the front office." The guard nodded respectfully and let him through. Arman walked through the hallway. The sound of children talking echoed from the cafeteria. When he reached the door, he paused and took a deep breath. He did not want to cause a scene. He only wished to understand what was happening. He entered quietly. The cafeteria was bright and noisy. Children laughed as they shared stories. Some sat in groups of 4 or 6. Others sat in pairs. Teachers stood near the tables, checking on students. Everything looked normal at first. Arman moved his eyes slowly around the room. Searching for Myra, he found her at last. She sat at a small table in the far corner away from the large groups. Her lunchbox was still closed. Her face was down. She looked alone. Not lonely because she wanted to be alone, but lonely because she had been placed there. Standing near her was a teacher. Arman did not know her name. She was speaking to Myra with a firm tone. 2 other students sitting at a nearby table watched with confused expressions. Arman walked closer. He moved slowly to avoid drawing attention, but inside, his heart was tightening. The closer he got, the more he realized Myra was not just sitting alone. She was being scolded. He could now hear the teacher's voice clearly. "You cannot bring this kind of food to school," she said. "It is not fair to the other students." Mira's voice trembled as she answered, "But it is only vegetables and rice." "I have told you this before," the teacher said. "Other children feel uncomfortable when you bring different food. You must take the school lunch." Arman stopped walking for a moment. He was shocked. Vegetables and rice were simple food. Why would a teacher make a problem out of it? He moved closer with steady steps. He did not want to react out of emotion. He wanted to understand the full situation first. He stepped beside Myra's table and spoke in a calm voice. "Is there a problem with my daughter's lunch?" The teacher turned, surprised to see him standing there. Her face changed quickly from strict to stiff and defensive. "You should not be in here without notice," she said. "I signed in at the front office," Arman replied politely. "I came to have lunch with my daughter." The teacher looked at the lunchbox with irritation. "Her food is causing issues," she said. "Other children feel uncomfortable. They say her food looks better than theirs. I told her she must eat the school meal instead." Arman listened carefully, trying to keep his voice steady. "Her food is cooked at home with simple ingredients," he said. "She likes eating this. Why is that a problem? The teacher crossed her arms. We want equality here. We do not want students to feel different. Armin opened the lunchbox slowly. Inside were plain rice, some cooked vegetables, and a small fruit. There was nothing fancy, nothing unusual. He looked at Myra. Her small face was tense. She looked like she expected to get in trouble from him too. Armin gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You did nothing wrong, he said. Myra's eyes filled with relief. The teacher looked irritated by his calm tone. You are making this unnecessary, she said. This is about rules. Armin looked at the teacher without raising his voice. A rule should not make a child feel ashamed of her own food, he said. The cafeteria seemed quieter now. Some children were watching. A few teachers turned their heads in curiosity. Armin realized that this problem was bigger than it appeared. Myra had been dealing with this silently. She had been holding her feelings inside. This was the reason for her sadness that morning, and now Armin understood why. He straightened his posture and spoke gently to Myra. Come with me. We will talk to the principal. Myra stood up slowly, still holding her lunchbox. Armin took her hand, and together they walked out of the cafeteria. He did not feel anger from his pride or his status. He felt anger only from one place, his heart as a father, and he knew he would not leave the school until this problem was solved the right way. Armin walked with Myra through the hallway, keeping his steps steady, even though his heart was full of concern. He held Myra's small hand gently, trying not to let her feel his tension. She walked quietly beside him, still clutching her lunchbox as if it was something she needed to protect. The hallway was quieter than the cafeteria. Their footsteps echoed as they made their way toward the principal's office. A few students walked past them, whispering to each other, wondering why Myra was with her father during lunch hours. Some of the teachers also gave a curious look, but Armin ignored all the attention. His focus was only on his daughter. When they reached the office door, Armin knocked softly. A calm voice from inside invited them in. The principal, Miss Hannah, looked up with a warm smile that faded when she noticed Myra's nervous expression. Armin, this is a surprise, she said. Is everything all right? Armin guided Myra to the chair next to him before answering. There is an issue in the cafeteria, he said. It concerns how my daughter is being treated during lunch. Miss Hannah straightened her posture, clearly sensing the seriousness of his tone. She folded her hands on the desk and looked at Myra with gentle eyes. Myra, would you like to tell me what happened? Myra hesitated. She looked down at her lunchbox, then at her father, then at the principal. Her voice was small but clear. The teacher said I cannot bring my food. She said it makes others feel bad. She told me I must eat the school lunch. Miss Hannah's eyebrows drew together. She looked at Armin with a confused and concerned expression. Who said this? The teacher supervising the lunchroom. Armin answered. I overheard her speaking to Myra. She told her that her food is unfair to others, and she must stop bringing meals from home. Miss Hannah shook her head slowly. That is not school policy, she said. Children are allowed to bring home meals as long as they are safe to eat. That has always been our rule. Armin opened Myra's lunchbox again on the principal's desk. This is what she brought, he said. Plain rice, vegetables, and fruit. Nothing unusual. Miss Hannah looked at the food. She frowned with confusion. This is very normal, she said softly. There is no reason to make her feel wrong for this. Armin nodded. That is exactly why I brought this to you, he said. Myra was embarrassed for something completely harmless. I could see the worry on her face this morning. She did not want to tell me because she thought she might get in trouble. Myra lowered her head again. Armin reached out and gently touched her hand to reassure her. At her age, he continued, children should feel welcome at school. They should not be ashamed of their food or their family background. I want to make sure this does not happen again. Not to her and not to any other student. Before the principal could respond, the door opened. The lunchroom teacher stepped inside, looking surprised to see Armin and Myra there. Her expression changed into a defensive one. I came as soon as I heard you wanted to see me, she said. I hope this will be quick. I have students to supervise. Miss Hannah looked at her with a firm but controlled expression. We need to discuss how you spoke to Myra today, she said. The teacher crossed her arms. I already explained that her lunch causes problems, she said. The other children complain. Some say her food smells better than theirs. Some say her meals look nicer. It makes them feel bad. I want the environment to feel equal. Armin listened carefully, but inside he felt disappointed that the teacher was still defending her behavior. He spoke calmly. Children learn from adults, he said. If you tell one child that her simple food is a problem, you are teaching her that being different is wrong. You are teaching her to hide who she is. Equality is not created by forcing everyone to be the same. It is created by treating everyone with respect. The teacher looked uneasy for a moment, but quickly hardened her tone again. You do not understand, she said. Some of these children cannot afford home meals that look this good. It is better if everyone eats the same lunch. Armin kept his voice steady. My daughter's food is not expensive, he said. It is cooked at home. Many families can prepare meals like this. You made her feel guilty for something simple. She came to school sad today because she thought she had done something wrong. That is not fairness. That is discouragement. The principal nodded firmly. I agree, she said. You cannot forbid a child from eating home food. That is not our school rule, and it is not your place to shame her for it. The teacher looked surprised at how strongly the principal spoke. I did not shame her, she insisted. I was trying to teach a lesson about equality. Arman looked directly into her eyes. And what lesson did she actually learn today? The teacher remained silent. She learned that she is not allowed to be herself, Arman said. She learned that bringing food made with care is wrong. She learned to be embarrassed for something that should be a comfort. That is not the lesson she deserves. The principal turned toward the teacher. I will handle this, she said. You may return to your duty for now. We will speak again later. The teacher wanted to protest but decided against it. She left the office quietly. Once the door closed, the room felt calmer. Miss Hannah turned back to Arman and Mira. I am very sorry this happened, she said. This is not acceptable. I will make sure it does not continue. Myra, you may bring your home meals every day. No one will tell you otherwise. Myra nodded slowly. Her posture relaxed just a little. Arman thought for a moment. He wanted a solution that would help all children, not just Myra. He wanted something that would teach kindness in the right way. He leaned forward and spoke with a thoughtful tone. I have an idea, he said. Something that might help the students feel more unity rather than jealousy. Both Mira and the principal looked at him with curiosity. What do you have in mind? Miss Hannah asked. Arman placed his hand on Myra's lunchbox and spoke gently. Children notice differences everywhere. Instead of trying to hide those differences, we should teach them how to celebrate them. I want to support the school in a positive way. The principal leaned closer. Waiting for him to continue, Arman smiled softly. I would like to sponsor a weekly shared meal day, he said. A simple buffet, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. A meal that all children can enjoy together. Something warm, basic, and comforting. Anyone can join, and no one will feel left out. Miss Hannah's eyes widened with surprise. You would fund this, yes, Arman said. But I do not want my name attached to it. It is not for attention. It is for the children. The principal looked deeply moved by his offer. This would help many families, she said. Some children do not get warm meals often. Something like this would bring real unity. Myra looked up at her father in amazement. You want to do this for my school? Arman smiled and nodded. For your school, and for your friends, he said gently. This way, no one will feel bad about what they bring from home. Everyone will share something good together once a week. The principal stood and extended a hand. Thank you, she said. I promise to take care of everything on our side. And I assure you, Myra will never be spoken to like that again. Arman shook her hand. He had come to find the problem. Now he was ready to become part of the solution. The next morning, Myra woke up with a different kind of energy. She dressed quickly, brushed her hair neatly, and walked into the kitchen with a bright smile. Arman noticed the change immediately. Her face looked lighter, as if the worry she carried the previous day had disappeared. Good morning, he said warmly. Good morning, Papa, she replied. Hugging him before sitting down, Arman placed a simple breakfast in front of her and smiled quietly. He could already see how much yesterday's meeting had helped her. The fear she had felt about her lunchbox was gone. She no longer held it like a fragile secret. She held it like something that belonged to her. After they finished breakfast, Arman packed her meal for school again. It was the same food she liked, rice, vegetables, and a piece of fruit. Myra watched him pack it and gave a small nod, as if confirming that she was ready to bring it proudly when they stepped outside. The morning sun was bright, and the air felt fresh. Arman glanced at Myra as they walked toward the car. She carried her lunchbox with confidence this time. No fear, no doubt, only comfort. The drive to school was peaceful. Myra talked about her drawings, her friends, and how she wanted to show one of her new paper crafts to her teacher in art class. Arman listened with genuine happiness. Seeing her relaxed again felt like a weight lifted off his heart. When they reached the school gate, Mira opened the car door and paused for a moment. Papa, she said softly. Yes, thank you for helping me. Arman smiled. You never have to face things alone, he said gently. I am always with you. She nodded and walked toward her class with a steady step. Arman watched until she disappeared inside the building. Then he drove away with a peaceful mind out at the school. Many things were already moving because of the meeting the day before. Miss Hannah, the principal, had called the staff together early that morning. She explained the importance of treating every child with respect, including the meals they brought from home. She made it clear that no teacher should make a student feel ashamed for what they eat. Some teachers agreed immediately. Some looked surprised. Others remained silent, thinking about their own behavior. The message was clear. The school would not tolerate actions that discouraged children. The lunchroom teacher who had spoken harshly to Mira looked uncomfortable during the meeting. She kept her head slightly lowered and her arms crossed. She did not speak, but everyone could feel the tension around her. She seemed unsure, perhaps embarrassed by her own actions, or unsure how the other teachers now viewed her. Miss Hannah did not mention her name, but everyone understood who had caused the issue. The teacher avoided eye contact with her colleagues as the meeting ended. Later in the day, she stood in the hallway, watching students pass by. Her expression was a mix of concern and pride, as if she was unsure whether the change was for the better or not. She had always believed she was promoting fairness, but the principal's words made her question herself. Meanwhile, Mira's morning went smoothly. Her friends seemed excited to see her. One girl named Rena even ran up to her and asked about her art project. They talked about colors, paper, and crafts with enthusiasm. Myra felt comfortable again. During class, the teacher, Mr. Kareem, noticed Myra's improved mood. He smiled at her during attendance and gave her encouraging words when she answered questions. The whole day seemed brighter for her when lunchtime arrived. Myra walked toward the cafeteria with more confidence than the day before. She held her lunchbox naturally, not trying to hide it. She walked with her friends, chatting and laughing. When they entered the lunchroom, she looked around carefully, perhaps remembering what had happened. The lunchroom teacher stood at the front. When she saw Myra walking in, her expression changed for a moment. She seemed unsure what to say or how to act. Several staff members and even some children had learned about the principal's meeting, so she felt the attention around her. Myra walked past her quietly, heading toward a table with her friends. She opened her lunchbox gently, as if reclaiming something that was taken from her. Her friend Rena looked inside and smiled. "This looks nice," Rena said. "My mother makes something similar." Myra smiled back. Her heart felt lighter. The teacher watched this interaction from a distance. She had never seen students speak positively about one another's meals. She realized that maybe she had been wrong. Maybe differences in food were not harmful. Maybe she had misunderstood the situation. But she had not yet gathered the courage to speak to Myra. During lunchtime, other children also shared cheerful conversations. The atmosphere felt more relaxed. Teachers kept an eye on the students, but no one approached Myra with negative comments. Her lunch was no longer a problem. It was simply food. While Myra ate, she noticed the lunchroom teacher watching her. For a moment, their eyes met. The teacher quickly looked away, nervous and unsure. Myra felt a strange mix of feelings. She did not dislike the teacher. She did not want anything bad for her. She only wished she had been kinder. After lunch, Myra returned to class. She felt comfortable, safe, and accepted. That afternoon, when Armin arrived to pick her up, she ran to him happily. She hugged him and talked about her day in rapid words. Her excitement was clear. Armin listened and smiled. "I am glad you had a good day," he said. "How was lunch?" "It was nice," Myra said. No one said anything wrong. Armin exhaled softly, relieved. That evening, Armin sat at home thinking about the next step of his idea. The weekly shared meal day needed planning. He wanted it to be simple, something students would look forward to, something that would bring joy instead of pressure. He made a few calls to suppliers he trusted. He asked about simple dishes that could be prepared in large quantities, like warm soup, vegetable stew, bread rolls, fruit slices, and rice dishes. Nothing fancy, just healthy, comforting food that any child would enjoy. Every supplier he called agreed immediately. Some offered discounted prices. Others offered free ingredients for the first month. They all admired his plan. They all wanted to support something good. The next day, Armin met with the principal again to share the details. Miss Hannah listened carefully and smiled with grateful eyes. "This will help many families," she said. "Some children do not get warm meals often. Your plan will make them feel cared for." Armin nodded. "I want it to feel like a community," he said. "Not charity, not something labeled, just a warm moment for all students." Together, they agreed on a day. Every Friday, the school would host a shared meal. No student would have to pay. All food would be served equally. Everyone would sit together at long tables, creating a sense of unity. When the announcement was made at school the next week, the children reacted with excitement. They clapped, cheered, and discussed what they hoped to eat. Teachers also felt relieved. They saw this as a chance to support their students in a simple but meaningful way. But while most people celebrated, the lunchroom teacher grew quiet. She felt a heavy weight inside her chest. She knew that the idea was good. She knew that children would benefit, but it reminded her of her mistake even more. She stood alone in the hallway after the announcement, replaying her conversation with Myra in her mind. For the first time, she felt regret, and she wondered if she should do something she rarely did. She wondered if she should apologize. The next morning, Armin woke up before sunrise. He sat at his kitchen table with a cup of tea, staring at the documents he had collected so far. Every page showed something different, but every page pointed toward the same truth. The school that was supposed to protect and teach children had been hiding serious problems. Some problems were about money, some were about food, some were about choices made by a few teachers who had more power than they should have had. Armin took a slow breath. He understood business, numbers, and management. He understood how to fix a failing company. But a school was different. A school shaped young lives. A school was where trust mattered more than anything. That was why he felt a new kind of responsibility. It was not just about his daughter Mina anymore. It was about all the children who sat in those classrooms. He knew he could not stop now. After breakfast, he drove Mina to school. She sat in the back seat, holding her small lunchbox close to her chest. Armin had asked the staff to allow her to bring her own lunch until everything was sorted. Mina had smiled when he told her she could bring food from home. She felt safe again that as soon as the car stopped, Mina leaned forward. She wrapped her arms around Armin. He hugged her back and kissed her forehead. She whispered, "Thank you, Baba." Armin smiled and replied, "You deserve the best. Always." Mina ran toward her friends, happy and relaxed. Armin watched her go, then stepped out of his car with a new plan in mind. Today he would meet the school board. Today he would bring forward everything he had found. Today he wanted real answers. Inside the school office, the receptionist looked nervous when she saw him. She stood up quickly and said, "Sir, the board members are waiting for you. They asked for this meeting as soon as possible." Armin nodded and followed her down the hallway. Every footstep echoed as if the school itself was holding its breath. When he entered the meeting room, 6 board members sat around a long wooden table. They looked serious and tense. The principal sat at the end, staring at the papers in front of him, avoiding eye contact. Armin felt the weight of the moment, but he stayed calm. One of the board members, an older man named Mr. Iqbal, stood up. He extended his hand. "Thank you for coming, Armin. We know why you are here. We received your complaint, and we want to discuss it seriously." Armin sat down. He placed a thick folder on the table. "Thank you, but this is not just a complaint. This is proof. Proof that the treatment of students is not equal. Proof that some rules are used without kindness. Proof that the lunch system is broken. And proof that certain teachers use their position to control students in the wrong way." The board members exchanged troubled looks. The principal shifted in his chair. Armin opened the folder. He placed the first document on the table. It showed irregularities in the food budget. Then he placed the second document, which listed student complaints. He placed the third document, which was a report from the cafeteria staff he had met. He continued until the table was almost covered. Mr. Iqbal slowly sat down. He studied each page with growing concern. The room was silent while the board read everything. The principal fidgeted, wiping sweat from his forehead. After several minutes, a woman on the board named Ms. Naira leaned forward. Her voice was calm but firm. "These problems are serious. We did not know the situation was this bad." Armin kept his voice steady. "You did not know because someone hid the truth. A school should never hide the truth from parents." The principal finally spoke. His voice shook slightly. "I admit some mistakes were made, but I assure you we always acted with good intention." Armin looked at him calmly. Good intention is not enough when a child sits alone and scared during lunch. Good intention is not enough when food is wasted but children are told to stay hungry. Good intention is not enough when a teacher decides who deserves kindness and who does not. A school must do better than that. Silence filled the room again. The board members seemed to understand the seriousness of what he said. Then Mr. Iqbal cleared his throat. "Armin, we promise to take action. We need time to investigate, but we will not ignore this." Armin replied, "You should act fast. Children cannot wait. Their childhood should not be damaged because adults failed them." At that moment something surprising happened. One of the cafeteria workers, a woman named Usha, knocked on the meeting room door. She held a small folder in her hand. She looked nervous but determined. Mr. Iqbal allowed her to enter. Usha stepped inside and said, "I want to share something. I did not have the courage before." Her voice trembled. She handed the folder to the board. "These are reports I wrote about food problems. I gave them to the principal months ago but nothing changed." The air in the room shifted. The board turned toward the principal. He sank deeper in his chair. It was clear now that the problems had been known for some time. Mr. Iqbal closed the folder slowly. He looked straight at the principal. "Why did you hide these reports?" the principal stammered. "I thought it would reflect poorly on our performance. I wanted time to fix things quietly." Armin felt a dull anger inside, but he kept control. He said calmly, "The moment you put your pride above the children, you failed your duty. You should not be leading this school." The board members looked at each other. A decision was forming in their minds. Ms. Naira spoke gently but firmly. "We need to vote. The principal will step outside." The principal stood up slowly, his hands shaking. He left the room, closing the door behind him. After he was gone, the board discussed in low voices. Armin did not interfere. He only listened. He had done his part. Now the school had to take responsibility. 15 minutes later, the door opened again. The principal was called back inside. Mr. Iqbal looked at him with a firm expression. "We have voted. You are removed from your position effective immediately. Until we find a new leader, our deputy head will take charge. This decision is final." The principal's face went pale. He opened his mouth as if to argue, but no words came out. He simply lowered his head and walked away. Armin felt no joy in the moment. He did not want to see anyone's career fall apart, but he cared about the children more than anything. This decision was necessary. The board then turned to Armin. "We thank you for bringing this to our attention. You have helped the entire school." Armin stood up. "Thank you for taking action. All I want is a safe and fair place for every child." As he walked out of the room, he felt lighter. The first big step had been taken. But something inside him told him the story was not over yet. There were more changes to make. There were more truths to uncover, and he was ready. Outside, Mina stood waiting near the school gate. Her smile made everything worth it. Arman knew the fight was not just for her lunch or her comfort. It was for her future, and he was not done protecting it. The next few days brought a strange mix of relief and tension across the school. News of the principal's removal spread quietly from staff to parents, and from parents to children who sensed that something important had happened. Even though many students did not know the full story, they could feel a change in the air. Teachers walked with more calmness. Cafeteria workers acted with more confidence. The hallways, once filled with nervous whispers, now carried a lighter mood. Arman noticed these changes when he dropped Mina off at school in the morning. Mina seemed more at ease. She greeted her friends without looking over her shoulder. She stepped into the building with a smile instead of her old, uncertain expression. Seeing that gave Arman strength, but he knew it was not yet the end. One leader had been removed, but the deeper issues still needed real solutions. Later that day, the new acting head of the school, Madame Sophia, requested a meeting with Arman. She was the deputy head who had quietly done her work for years without attracting attention. When Arman met her in her office, he was surprised by her steady presence. She had kind eyes and a calm voice, but she also carried a firm sense of responsibility. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I want to speak with you directly because the school is entering a new stage. We want to rebuild trust with parents and students, and we want your help." Arman sat across from her. "I am ready to help in any way that protects the children and improves the school." Sophia nodded. "I have reviewed everything you gave the board. The issues in the cafeteria were only part of a bigger problem. Rules were enforced without heart. Budgets were handled without clear oversight. The environment became tough for children who needed kindness. We want to fix this, but we need someone who understands structure and management." Arman realized where this conversation was heading. He waited quietly. Sophia continued, "We would like you to join a temporary advisory team. You will help us review school policies, cafeteria operations, and student support systems. This is voluntary, of course, but your experience can make a real difference." Arman looked down at his hands for a moment. He had businesses to run, meetings to attend, and employees who depended on him. But then he thought about Mina sitting alone in the lunchroom. He thought about the cafeteria worker who had been afraid to speak up. He thought about the children who were too scared to share their problems. He raised his head. "I accept." Sophia smiled with genuine relief. "Thank you. We will begin immediately." That was how Arman became part of the solution. Over the next week, he spent hours after work walking through the school with staff members. He observed how food was prepared and served. He reviewed expense sheets and suggested a more honest system. He spoke with teachers about the need for softness in rules so children did not feel punished for small mistakes. He also encouraged the school to create a safe corner where students could share concerns without fear. The most important change happened in the cafeteria. With Arman's guidance, new lunch menus were created. The food became healthier, fresher, and properly managed. Portions were fair. Waste reduced. For the first time, children smiled when receiving their meals. Even the cafeteria workers felt proud because their work was finally respected. Mina noticed the change before anyone else. One afternoon when Arman picked her up from school, she said, "Baba, today everyone sat together during lunch. The teachers helped us and the food tasted good. No one was scared today." We laughed. Arman felt warmth fill his chest. Moments like these were worth every hour of effort, but the story did not end there. One evening, as Arman was preparing to leave the school, Asha, the cafeteria worker who had spoken up during the board meeting, approached him. Her hands shook slightly as she held a small notebook. "Sir," she said, "I think you should see this. It is a list of complaints written by several students. They wrote them last year, but no one collected them. They placed them in a box near the office, but the box was never checked. I found it while cleaning a storage room." Arman took the notebook and opened it. The pages were filled with simple handwriting. Students had written about feeling ignored, feeling embarrassed in class, feeling judged, feeling confused or lost. None of the issues were extreme, but each one held a young voice asking for understanding. Arman closed the notebook carefully, treating it like something important. "Thank you for giving me this," he said. "Every voice matters. This will help us make the school better." That night, he sat in his living room, reading each page slowly. By the time he finished, he felt a deep resolve. Children should never feel unheard. Tomorrow he would present the notebook to Sophia and the board. This would become a new project. The next day, he entered Sophia's office with the notebook. When she read the pages, her expression softened with sadness. She placed her hand on the cover and said, "This is more valuable than any report. These are the students themselves speaking. We will create a system so every child can express their thoughts freely and safely." Together they prepared a plan. The school would introduce a weekly student voice program. Each class would have a small meeting where children could share their concerns, ideas, and feelings. Teachers would listen and record the comments. At the end of each week, the school would review them and take action when needed. When the plan was announced, many children felt hopeful. Mina told her father, "It feels like the school is changing for real." Soon, a new principal was selected. His name was Farid, a calm and thoughtful educator who had worked in another district. He believed strongly in kindness, structure, and fairness. He spent his first week visiting classrooms, speaking with students and meeting parents. He thanked Armin personally for protecting the students during a difficult time. Under the new leadership, the school improved faster than expected. The cafeteria ran smoothly. The teachers became more attentive. Students felt safer. Parents trusted the school again. One day, several months later, the school invited Armin to a special event. When he entered the hall, he saw teachers, students, and staff gathered together. Mina stood in the front row, smiling with excitement. Madam Sophia walked to the stage and said, "Today we honor someone who helped us rebuild this school, someone who stood up when it was not easy, someone who believed every child deserves respect." She called Armin's name. The students clapped, the teachers clapped, Mina clapped the loudest. Armin walked to the stage feeling humbled. Sophia handed him a certificate of appreciation. "But more importantly," she said, "this school is better because you cared. You reminded us that the smallest act of courage can protect many lives." Armin looked at the crowd. He saw hope in their faces. He saw trust. He felt a quiet pride, not because he had money or influence, but because he had used his voice for something that mattered. When he stepped down from the stage, Mina ran to him. She hugged him with all her heart and said, "Baba, you made my school safe." Armin held her tight. In that moment, he knew that no business success could ever compare to this feeling. He had not just protected his daughter, he had helped many children who would grow up stronger and happier because someone cared enough to act. The story that began with a single lunchroom moment ended with a school transformed, and Armin understood one thing clearly. Real change begins when one person chooses to stand up for what is right. And he had done exactly that.